How's it going, everybody? BigManRonk back again with another story for you guys. So this one actually takes place this summer. So the summer of 2022 this takes place. So on this day I'd gone to my friend's house with about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 other people to play Dungeons and Dragons. So I know. Yeah, it's something we do now and again because he's quite into it. So maybe like once a year we'll meet up and play that. And he makes a whole campaign. I don't really go into it as much as other people do, but I still have a good time. So just to give you the whole story of how the day went. So we get about halfway through D&D and we decide to take his dog for a walk in the park because he's got this golden retriever. It's just an absolute legend. So we take his little dog for a walk in the park. And at this point we'd started drinking about midday. So I was on about 3 or 4 beers at this point. So I'm just walking through a park, holding this dog lead with a beer in the other hand, just strolling through. And there's like families with kids and shit walking through a park, and I'm getting a few funny looks. Well, we all are because we're in a massive group. Half of us have got beers, and we're just walking this guy's dog through a park. We look like absolute white trash. So we got these 2 football goals, and we've got nets and everything. So we decided to have a little kickabout. So we did like a 5-a-side game, and I decided to go and goal because I was drinking. So normally, I mean, in goal, the ball hits you, it might sting quite a lot, but I was thinking I'm numb to the pain through these beers, so I'm just going goal. And I was a young Manuel Neuer in between most posts. I'm telling you, like, once I've had a few beers, the reaction times just double, and I was just so locked in. Like, I was doing pull-ups on the crossbar between shots. I was absolutely dialed. And then these 2 little kids come up to us, and they ask us to play. And at this point, we've been playing with this tiny little inflatable, like, beach ball from his house, because he didn't even have a football. So they had an actual football, these little kids. It was pretty scuffed ball. Like it was peeling off and it was a bit flat, but they had a ball. So we were like, yeah, sure, you can join in. If you give us a ball, like it'll be a movie. So we let these little kids play, and I'm still in goal, and I'm showing no mercy. Like I'm not about to back down. Like, I've had a few. I'm not about to back down to this little 4-year-old. So they're giving me these little pussy shots, like trying to tap it bottom corner. I'm just whacking that shit out of there. I'm just blocking that shit. Like you can't always let kids score just because they're kids, you know. Like sometimes you got to show them no mercy and show them how the world works. Like I'm bigger than you. You're getting these balls whacked in your face. What? Not. I'm not whacking balls and kids. My balls. I'm saving their shots. I actually had a scab on my arm or my elbow, and it was just about healed. But because of all the diving around and the dirt and shit, it actually opened back up, which is pretty gross. And I started bleeding all down my arm. So I must have put fear into these kids' hearts because I was just this blood-covered, topless drunk in the park, saving everything they threw at me. So eventually they leave because they must have got bored of being dominated so much. So we told them we come back at sunset, but we never did. You know, we're high value males. We got dragons to slay, so we head back to the house and try and finish this game. And we have a load more drinks, and eventually we kill this dragon. I can't remember how it ended, but like we slay this dragon somehow. I was one of the ones who made it to the end. I didn't die, so it was a great time. So we start seshing. You know, we're having a few more drinks, a few more beers, and he's got this little sort of shed outside of his house, which has a pool table and like a punch bag and darts and everything. So we head into there. Quite a few people go home at this point, but we want to finish the night. So we're just drinking in there, playing darts, playing pool. And in there we find these little plastic cars. There's 2 of these little plastic cars, like made for kids. But I don't know how they work, but basically they have no like engine or pedals or anything. So what you do is you grip the steering wheel and you pull it left and right. And as you do that, the car sort of jiggles and swivels forward. And you get momentum, and you can like drive just by swinging the wheel. It's honestly some 4th dimension like Matrix engineering. I don't know how it works, but we set up a little Mario Kart course around the pool table. So we're just racing around the pool table. We got like cones in between and shit. We're going through people's legs, so that was a great time. And it gets to about, I'd say it got to about maybe like 11:30, midnight, and quite a few people go home. And the only people that are left are 2 of my mates. So the guy who was hosting and another mate who I've known a long time. So for privacy reasons, I'm gonna give him fake names. So we'll call one Bowl Cut, and we'll call the other one Seal. So Bowl Cut and Seal and I are all in the shed, and we're strategizing on how we're going to keep this night going. And I pull out a joint from my pocket because I thought I might as well bring one just to see if we want to extend the night any further. It might have movie potential. So we decide we're going to get these little cars that we have, like the swivel, the jiggle cars, and we're going to pick them up. We're going to go to the park, and we're going to smoke somewhere in the park. So we head across the road carrying these little plastic cars, and we head through this gap in the hedge and into the park. And we're trying to find a flat surface where you can race these cars on. So we go over to the basketball court and we set them down and we start jiggling and swiveling. But nothing's happening. We're getting nothing. Like, we're getting no momentum at all. We try going uphill, we try going downhill, and we can't really get anywhere. So that dream died pretty quickly. So then next on the agenda was we're going to find a place to smoke. When me and my boys smoke, we always try and find like the perfect setting. The setting makes for sesh. And on the far side of a park, there's this playground. So we head over there. And let me tell you, this is the most privileged playground I have ever seen in my life. It had a fucking zip line. So you know those zip lines where it's like a cable hanging down and then that little disc that you sit on. And then someone pushes you and you go all the way to the end and then like fly up in the air. So it had one of them, which is pretty long. And it also had a trampoline, which was inside of a floor. So part of a floor, it was just a square, and then it was made of like trampoline material. So you could just do a run up and just go flying off this trampoline. And it had all sorts, like swings, climbing frames, slides and everything. It was crazy. It's probably like top 3 playgrounds I've ever seen. Don't take that out of context. Anyway, so we decide we want to hotbox somewhere. And the best place to hotbox in this playground would be this slide. So there's one of those tube slides that are like fully enclosed. It's this yellow tube that just goes and spirals round to the bottom. So we decide we're going to crawl in there and we're going to spark up. And every time we smoke, we always get the driest mouths on earth. So we came prepared today. So what we did is we emptied these 2-litre bottles of fizzy water and we filled them up with tap water. So we have 4 litres of water between us. And there's just 3 of us. So what's that? That's 1.33 litres each. So we're pretty much set on hydration. So the only problem is we have to lug these huge bottles up the slide. So we lug them up this playground equipment and we get into the slide. And the top bit, the flat bit of the top, isn't long enough for us all to fit along. So one of us is going to have to sort of lean on the slope and position their body so they don't slide down, but they can still chill with us. So Seal takes one for the team, and he goes down the bottom of the slide, and he's lying on the slope of the slide. Like, he's basically holding himself up. All his weight is on one of his feet. So he's just about not sliding down this slide. And then I'm in the middle of the top bit, and then Bowlcut is on my right, so he's at the very top of the slide. So we pull out these 2-litre water bottles, and we're all set up to go. So I pull out a joint and we start smoking up in this slide. So we're filling up this slide with smoke and we're having a great time. And we get about halfway through this joint and it goes out. So I go to relight it with a lighter that I have. It was like this little green one. But I go to spark this lighter and it's completely out of gas. But luckily I bring a backup lighter every time. So I have this little pink one that I pull out. And that doesn't spark either. So now we're in a bad situation. Like, the boys are panicking. Like, we're not going to be able to finish the hotbox here. So you know how there's that little dial on the side of a lighter? And you can swivel it around to control how big you want the flame to be. So it turns out that was on the bottom. And I guess the air wasn't that good in the slide of like 3 of us farting it up. So I swivel this dial all the way to the max. And at this point, I was already pretty drunk before this. Like, we've been drinking from about midday all the way to this point, which is about 11 o'clock. So I was pretty drunk before this. And now I'm high as well. So my inhibitions are fucked. And I don't really know what I'm doing. But I swivel it all the way to the top. And I put the joint in my mouth and I go to light it. But obviously, when you put that dial to the top, the flame is very tall. So I'm just lighting it like you normally would. I'm not backing away from it or anything or giving myself distance. I just spark up a joint like you would. So this absolute inferno unleashes from a lighter and it goes all the way up and it hits me right in my lip and it starts singeing the actual moustache on my lip. So I'm like, fuck! And I drop the joint and I drop the lighter and I've burnt my lip. So I woke up the next day and it felt so weird on my lip because it felt like when you burn your tongue, that sort of numb, weird feeling, but that was like all over my top lip, so absolute cretin move there. So anyway, at this point the joint's lit again, and we're having a great time. And we get near the end of this joint, and something funny happens. Because at this point, Seal had been holding himself up in this precarious position on this slide for a good 5-10 minutes at this point. So his legs shaking quite a lot. And I go past him this joint, and as he's about to take it, he just slips, like his foot comes off and he just slides all the way out of the slide. Like, we just see him check out of life. It was the funniest thing. And like, the entire slide just filled with smoke and he just exits. He doesn't mean to, but he just slides all the way down, like mid-toke. So we were fucking dying over this. And then he crawls away back up and we get the joint finished. So for people who care, this is off the dark web, this stuff I ordered. And the 3 strains I put in this were Purple Haze, Sour Diesel, and White Widow. So we had a mixture of those. And this dark web stuff was crazy. Because we were all fucked up off this very quickly. Especially Bowlcut. Because Bowlcut will take a puff of any substance, even drinking. Like, that guy, he just gets sent instantly. So he's very, very fucked off this joint. And we climb out of this slide and we start going to explore this playground because this is literally, after you've had a joint, this is a perfect place to be. Like, back where I live, the playground's alright, but it's not on this level. It's nowhere near this level. So we're jumping on this trampoline, we're trying to double bounce each other. We're getting on the zip line. I got pushed on the zip line and I hit the end. I nearly flew off. Like, We were going crazy. We were just jumping on everything, climbing on everything. We were getting wild in this playground. And there comes a point in all of this where suddenly we all stop because we hear this noise. And this noise just stops everything. Because this is a very, very loud noise. And what it is we hear some sort of animal just like screeching in pain. I don't know if it was pain or something, but we just hear a very loud like... And it was very low and bassy, so we assumed it was a cow. Like, it couldn't have been a cat or a fox or anything like that. So the leading theory at the time was, this is a cow. So at first we're laughing about it like, oh, he sounds like he's having a great night. But then it keeps going. It's getting louder, and it sounds like more in pain as it's going. So we're just trying to do what we want, but we keep getting interrupted by this screaming cow. And it gets to the point where we decide we're going to try and go save this cow. So we climb over the fence and we start walking across the park to where we think the noise is coming from. And for some reason, when people are high, you have this weird thing with the whole herd mentality. I feel like it becomes a lot stronger because I sort of picked up the pace a little bit and started jogging. And then instantly the other two are jogging as well. And then before we knew it, we're all three of us are just full sprinting towards this noise and not saying a word to each other. We're just, I don't know, some weird panic gets in your head, like you've got to do what everyone else is doing. So we're sprinting towards the source of this noise. If those kids came back at sunset and were still there kicking around, they would have shat themselves seeing three of us gremlins running towards them. So anyway, we reach the end of this park and we're getting close to the noise. The noise is getting louder. The cow's getting, it's like, so it's keeping on going. So we go down this hill and we reach this main road that's right next to a field, and the noise is very loud at this point. So we're very close to the source of it, so the cow must be in here, and it is so loud. We don't know what's going on. Like, we're trying to think, why would this cow be screaming in pain so much? We're thinking, like, is it getting like raped by some? Because I remember that there's that guy who went around fucking horses and eventually died because a horse actually ruptured his ass. He's called Mr. Hands. Look him up. So I thought maybe this was like a repeat of that. Like, we've got Mr. Hands 2.0. He's going around balls deep in cows. We were just trying to come up with theories on why this cow was screaming as loud as it was. But we reached this fence, and there's a massive hedge that's covering this field and a fence behind it. So the field is pretty much, like, we couldn't break into this field. Like, we wanted to, but we couldn't see a way into this field. So we try and walk around it, but the fence just goes all the way around. So there's nothing we can really do at this point because we can't find a way into the field. So we just have to stand there and let this poor cow get fiddled because we can't do anything about it. So I don't know, maybe that's just routine and it was getting milked at 1 a.m. by the farmer, but honestly, we to this day, we have no idea why this cow was freaking out as much as it was. So we wanted to help this cow, but we couldn't. So we decided we're going to head back to the park and continue what we are doing. Just try and ignore the screams of pain. So we head back over to the park, we're back on the swings, we're having a good time. But something you should know about Bolka is he can get a little bit paranoid when he's high, or when he's drunk even. So usually it's alright, but on this night, how this park was it's a big square park. I mean, all the way around it was a road going all the way around it, and then houses on the other side of that road. So it's sort of a ring, like a big square road around this park. And occasionally, like, a car would go slowly down this road with its headlights on. And every time a car pulled up, this guy is just freaking out. Like, any light source, this guy would just immediately assume it was a Rozzers. Like, he sees a car goes past, boys, it's feds. And we're trying to calm him down. Like it's not too bad at this point, but like, it got to the point where like a squirrel would rustle a leaf nearby, and he'd be like, boys, it's SEAL Team 6, we need to head back. So eventually these thoughts kind of get into my head a bit too, and they kind of get into SEAL's head because of that herd mentality I was talking about. So when a car does come past, I'm starting to think as well, like, I mean, is it the Rozzers? I'm starting to doubt my own judgment. And then when I was on a swing, there was this one moment where we see a car and it had you know how police have that sort of high-vis, like, green stripe on? Like, we saw a car that was similar to that. I don't know if it was a police car, because the memory's kind of hazy, because we were pretty waved. But I think one of us sees one of his cars, he's like, boys, it's actually police. So we're like crouching behind this swing set in this dark playground, like praying this car isn't actually feds. And then once that car leaves, we just run. We head back to the house and we get out of there. So we head back and we go back into his little shed outside of his house, and we get a few games of pool going. And oh my god, bowl cut. Like, sometimes when you smoke, you get extremely dialed into certain activities. Like, you can lock in so hard. And this happened to bowl cut while I was playing him at pool. And this guy hit like 6 balls in a row, like without even blinking. Like, he wasn't even he wasn't even taking his eyes off of the balls. Like, he wasn't even speaking. Like, he was just so fucking locked in. Like, I've seen that a few times happen to people. It's happened to me as well. There's been a few times when I've smoked and, like, played Halo split screen or COD split screen, and I've just got so fucking locked into the game. I'm, like, YYing, like, sliding around corners, like, pre-aiming corners and shit, and just, like, sweating out over everyone. So I know the headspace he was in. So, yeah, he absolutely annihilates me at pool. Like, I think I got, like, 2 balls in, because I was kind of fucked up. And we just got some tunes on, and we let the night play out from there. But yeah, sometimes when I'm in bed at night, I still think about that cow and like what we could have done, and is it alive? Was it getting touched? Like we actually checked the news for like, is there a local like cow rapist or something in the area? Like we were checking through news articles like where he lives, and then we put cow afterwards and like see if anything was coming up. But we couldn't find anything in the end, and yeah, I still think about that cow sometimes. So yeah, that cow, if you're listening to this, I hope you got out there alright. You know, I hope you're not too sore or anything. But you know, milk is milk. So at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. But that's where that story ends. It was a very interesting night. So I appreciate you all for listening. And if you got to the end of this video, comment and pay your respect for this cow below, because honestly, that guy had a rough night. But I hope you enjoyed this little story here, and check out the Twitch if you haven't already. Like, I'm trying to stream quite a lot, so come and hang out in the streams, and I'll keep the content coming. So I love you guys, and I'll see you later.